Hey guys, welcome back to Trial and Error. So very strange video for me, but man, I couldn't watch any more of this without doing something, or at least saying something. And I want to start this up by saying I am so sorry to the families that were affected by this building collapse in Miami. It's actually it's pissing me off because it is so preventable, or it was so preventable. But not only did nothing was done to obviously prevent the catastrophe, but they're lined up for a second one, and nobody's doing anything about that either. So that's why I'm making this video. Is I'm watching some of the local news down there, and I'm seeing story after story about not only this building but the sister building, which was built in the identical fashion by the same people, designed by the same guy. It's the same building. And in that, they're doing some interviews with people in that second tower that are living there today, and there's pictures of the clearest examples of massive structural failures in that second tower, next to the one that just fell down, that was designed and built by the same people at the same time. And they're still there. So one of the pictures, I'm going to throw up on the screen here. What you're seeing there is, you're seeing a few things. First of all, concrete cracks. That's what it does. Even when it's new, it cracks. It expands. It cracks. It expands. It contracts, and it cracks. That's what it does. Down there, you are obviously hammered by salt water on top of that. So eventually, water penetrates, gets into that rebar, and goes at that metal, just like it does with anything. However, it doesn't make the rebar just disintegrate and disappear. Before it can get to that stage, it first expands. So on something like a column, like we see in that picture, that is a perfect example of what happens when water gets into that rebar, causes that rebar to expand, and it puts enormous pressure from the inside pushing out on an extremely important piece of the structure of the building, in a support column like that. And what you start to see is it starts very small with that crack. Like I said, that's where that moisture gets in there. And then you'll start to see that crack chip. Very small little pieces. There'll be a bunch of them, though, and it will start to chip, chip, chip. Next thing you know, you're getting bigger slabs until eventually it gets to a point like you see in that picture. That is pure, straight up structural failure there. That no longer has the integrity that it needs to have to be what it's intended to be. And part of that you see in the way that building dropped, and it just pancaked all the way down, like almost like a perfectly staged demolition. There was nothing left for structural rigidity in that building. There was so much damage. Concrete is incredibly strong in compressive force, but it is incredibly weak in just about every other way, which is why you need rebar. So when that rebar starts to break down, again, not only is it putting pressure on concrete in the worst possible way, outward pressure. That's the last thing concrete needs, because that's where it has no strength. But that's what the rebar is for. So you're getting the double hit of you're losing that tie in the concrete, but you're also getting pressure push on that concrete from the worst possible place and inwards out. My other thought, and at least my initial thought, and this is just, I'm a professional amateur building, general contracting electrician, as you guys know. My first thought was, maybe this was a post-tension building in terms of the floor slabs, and those things have been known to snap before, and that's what caused it and created this domino effect. But as I look through some of these other pictures here, and again, this is just, I have the access to what you guys have access to, just looking at pictures on the internet and taking guesses here. I see zero evidence that was a post-tension floor. It looks like it's just a standard rebar run floor. You can see rebar throughout it. You don't see any of the open channels that you normally would see for post-tensioning. I had to get one of those in every video. So I don't think that was a situation, but you can have that problem down there too, where eventually corrosion gets in those cables that tension the floor and make it one solid piece, and starts to get it and break those guys down. But I don't think it was any of those things. I think it was just guessing based on what I can see here. Really straightforward looks to me that we just completely ignored massive structural failure in those columns, especially at the lower levels, between hurricanes hitting it over the last 40 years and bringing, I'm sure, dumping salt water in there in the basement in the parking garage. it was inevitable. This is what happens when you don't take care of a building. It shouldn't happen in the United States. It very rarely does happen in the United States. But that's makes this all the more aggravating because there's no reason that should have happened. Beyond that, if you're living in those towers, that second set of towers, get your ass out of there. That what you see on that one column is all I would need to see to know I am, cartooned out of that. You couldn't get me out of there fast enough because it wouldn't take much for that tower. A little extra stress on that column, and it's just going to shear and crumble into pieces, which is kind of what we saw happen on the other one. So, man, I'm telling you, I don't claim to be the smartest guy in the world, but I can look at something and, if it walks like a duck, it quacks like a duck, it's probably a piece of shit, poorly maintained building. So, yeah, feel free. If you got a different opinion, think I'm an idiot, think I'm wrong, throw it down there. If you agree, throw it down there too. Let me know. I'm just, the fact that we've got people still living in a second tower showing the exact same structural failures, or at least the major contributing factors to that structural failure. How is that even possible? Is anyone thinking God, I don't know. Be safe. Thanks for watching.